I'll tell you a quick story of me and my son. This was about uh, 6, 7 years ago, where my wife had to go to India with our daughter, and it was just me and my son uh, home. And he was about 7 years old, and he looked at me one day, just straight up like that, at like the next day when mom and my daughter left for some time to India, and she's like, "What are we gonna do?" I'm like, "I don't know." And he was like, "What do you want to eat?" And he said, "Well, I love pancakes." Like, great. So guess what? I did breakfast pancakes, lunch pancakes, dinner pancakes. Next day, he said, "No more pancakes." Like, this is not what we're gonna do. But then he said, "Papa, what else are we gonna do?" I'm like, "All right, what else can we do?" And I wanna bring you in on something of inside of me. And I'm like, "We're gonna watch the whole Rocky series." And we watched the whole Rocky series from 4, then 3. Like, you have to watch it in a certain way if you know what I mean there. And then when my wife came back, she's like, "Who is this kid? He's running around butt naked, like running like this around the house. What's going on with it?" But you do something like, so that's why that's my favorite walk up song. Thank you for indulging on that on that little story. So let me talk about 11 irrefutable go-to-market plays. Now, how many of you are focused purely on marketing? Marketing is your jam, that's what you do. All right? How many of you are now focused on go to market? What's the difference? Michelle, why don't you tell us what's the difference since you did such an amazing talk? They're one and the same. They're one and the same. The question is, do you understand as a marketer, and are you as an individual, and I love so much of what Michelle you said, the way I phrase that is, do you understand are you good at marketing the business? Or do you learn more and understand the business of marketing? Let me say that again. You understand marketing the business, which means you know every single tactic there is. Maybe you are an SEO pay-per-click guy or gal, and you know how to look at those numbers really well. That means you know how to market the business. That's what you do. That's what you build your career on. But then the business of marketing is what go-to-market is. The business of marketing means you're going to figure out what works for your business. Maybe the plays that you used before are not going to work. Just because you're really, really good at that doesn't mean that's what's going to be required at the other company or the business that you're in. And that's a big difference, folks. I learned that the hard way. You have to figure out, are you good at marketing the business, or do you really, truly understand the business of marketing? And today, I'm going to spend talking about the business of marketing. And the way I plan to do that is just going through 11 different plays that I've used in both the companies, but I've used it slightly differently. And I love Stephen Covey's conversation around this contrast of from to. So I'm going to use a lot of from to throughout this presentation. It's going to be fast-paced. There's going to be a QR code for the slides if you want to get it yourself. But it's something that I want you to think about constantly throughout this presentation. Are you good at marketing the business, or are you good at understanding the business of marketing? That's what the future of go-to-market really is. But before we go there, I want to share about the difference between the two different companies that I got to run and how different they were, so you understand that these plays are something that you can use no matter what type of company you're running. So for example, Terminus, we talked about it, is a SaaS business. It's 2014. It was built in the upmarket, pretty much, right? Like that was a good time. Venture backed, we raised over 120 million to build that company. We created and helped create a new category around account-based marketing at that point. We built a whole community, over 100,000 people who were part of Flip My Funnel community that we did events all over North America. And then I wrote 2 books, a LinkedIn course. There are over 50,000 people who have taken that course. And I was the co-founder of that company. When you look at go-to-market partners, it's a services business. We do research and advisory and helping companies how they should go to market. And that's what tomorrow's Roadshow is about. We're teaching all these direct and above folks coming to learn about go-to-market. We run through a lot of workshop time where you can actually figure out how and apply those principles to your company right then and there. That's what tomorrow's workshop is all about. It was bootstrapped. We didn't raise a single penny. That feels really good, by the way. Because when you raise money, you are doing things that you just start, you know how to, you get really good at spending money. When you're bootstrapped, you look at everything really, really closely. That's when you really understand the business of it. Not, oh, here's my budget, how am I going to spend it, versus why am I spending it? Very different ballgame altogether. It's in a down market, right? It's in a down market. And we're redefining a new category because I think go-to-market existed and has always been there, but what does it really mean? What's involved in it? What teams, what are the different metrics? What's going on that side of the house? And then we're creating a new roadshow, which is what you will experience tomorrow. When Pete said, like, hey, the next day we can do this, we're like, let's do this together. And we're doing a half-day breakfast, lunch, all included. And we're going to have leaders right here from Pluralsight and others doing this roadshow so that we can teach and learn together how to do go-to-market. You're going to see some principles today around it. And then wrote a book, Move, and create another LinkedIn course. You can see that are very similar to completely different companies, but very, very similar ideas in there. But John Maxwell, one of my favorite mentors, he said something. If you want to impress people, talk about all of your accomplishments. So that might seem like that. But if you want to impact people, talk about your failures. So here you go. Life was a mess. It's my first time doing something. It was crazy. I almost got divorced. We almost drew out the papers, and it was done. It was this close to be done at that point. We had a 4-year-old son, and our daughter was just born. I didn't have faith. Like, faith wasn't part of who I was. I didn't really know God. I didn't really understand how to think and have perspective. It was just an American dream. So I was just going after it at all cost, whatever it took. And I had probably the most unhealthy relationship with my co-founder ever. So everything was a mess. And as I'm doing this thing again, I'm learning and growing. I took a lot of notes from what Michelle, you said, and then what Stephen Covey was talking about, the whole leading and inspiring, and I'm trying to evaluate and look at it and figure out how close can I get to that. Super interestingly, my wife and I, we renewed our 15-year wedding anniversary a few years ago. So that was a big moment for us. And now that we're building a new company, I know how to set expectations a little bit better than it was before. We have now a 13-year-old son. My daughter is growing. Both are in tennis. You'll see some of that throughout it. I feel like I'm living on purpose, on faith. Although the goals are the same on the company level, but I'm doing everything differently. Very differently. And you'll see some of those examples. And then I've learned, I think I'm so glad Stephen said, so these slides are already there, that I've learned to trust. Such a hard job. It's actually one of the hardest skill. Michelle, you mentioned about will and skill and attitude. I feel trust is that, can I trust that, as Stephen Covey was talking about? Man, that's really, really hard. How many of you struggle with trusting? Like, I struggle. Like, big time. And especially if you're good at something, you really struggle to give it to somebody to say that, all right, let's see how you do it. And be like, no. So trusting is really, really hard. And that's what you got to learn. And that's what I'm learning right now. And I'll give you the cliff notes before we get into the 11 is like, what didn't work? What didn't work clearly was know it all. If I came into this new gig and said I knew exactly what to do, I think we would have failed. Big time. Big time. And the other part that I learned was when we built the first company, we're focused on the product. Now that we're building a new company, I'm learning that second-time founders actually focus more on distribution. Another way you can say is go to market. You really are focused on that. And we're going to learn some of those examples right now. And this idea of being there, done that, as cool as it is and you need it at a certain point in your organization, it's like new world, new rules right now. We are all in unprecedented times when it comes to how the market is looking at us and engaging with us. Everybody is working and trying to figure out, how do I use AI? Is that the new product? What did the competitors do? That everybody is in a different mode right now, and we all are trying to figure it out. None of us here sitting can say, I got this. If you do, I need to talk to you, because I don't, and I need help. And so I think we all can learn from each other and help each other, and today is going to be no different. So let me give you, and I'm going to walk through these one slide really, really fast, but those are the 11. If you want to take a picture, this would be it of all the 11 go-to-market problems, and it's also very self-validating when people actually take out the phones and take pictures. It feels really good. So thank you for indulging in that. But these are the 11 different ones. Let me just go through one by one and give you a quick story on it, an example. So number one, redefining the problem. I found that one of the hardest things to do in the market, to break into the market, especially if you are an existing category trying to build a new category, is like, are you redefining the problem? So in 2015, we introduced this idea that, look, everybody knows the funnel, broad at the top, narrow at the bottom. We want to flip it, and we called it Flip My Funnel. Quick story on that one is I was on a flight from San Francisco to Atlanta in the middle seat next to two drunk people. There was no Wi-Fi. So all I had was a napkin and a pen that I had to borrow from the air hostess. It was like, give me something to do. And while I'm on the flight, I was like, all right, I'm just coming from a conference, and they're all talking about this broad funnel, but what if we're looking at it wrong? What if we went after, especially if you're in B2B, went after the right accounts that you want to go after, engage them on their terms, and then actually try to turn them into advocates? What would that look like? So I just flipped that napkin, and that's how Flip My Funnel was born. And really interestingly, we rode that for the entire 8 years while we were building the company, is that, guys and teams, we need to figure out how we change people. So same way Stephen Covey is talking about paradigm shift, that's what that is. It's a shift for people. That allowed us to get everybody to look at the problem, not the product. We never talked about the product. We always talked about the problem. The same thing we're doing right now with go-to-market. We're saying, look, nobody got a perfect answer for go-to-market. Everybody's trying to figure this out, but we got a process to think about it. And we invented this 8-pillar go-to-market OS. This is what we're going to go through tomorrow, literally every single pillar. We're going to go dive down what it means and how it works and how you can apply it to your organization. But the difference is that nowhere we're talking about the product. That's redefining the problem. When you redefine the problem, people lean in. I'll tell you a quick story. When we were doing an event, when we built building Terminus in the early days, I reached out to 10 different sponsors and said, hey, I want to do an event together, and would you sponsor this event? Guess what everybody said? No. Not interested. Why would I sponsor a Terminus event? And then, as we created this Flip My Funnel, bought this domain for $8 called flipmyfunnel.com. And 3 months later, had this site and reached out to the same 10 companies. Would you sponsor a Flip My Funnel event that is all about challenging the status quo of marketing and sales? Guess what everybody said? Yes. And everybody spent money on building an entire community for us. Right now, you're experiencing something similar right now at Marketing Silicon Slopes. You're here because it's a community event. We all are geared to be part of a community. So when we think about redefining the problem, we have to also redefine how we bring people together. So that's number one. Number two, one of the most important things I learned about marketing in general, beyond redefining the problem, is that your point of view is your strategy. If you don't have a point of view, you don't have a strategy. What you have are a bunch of random acts of tactics, random acts of marketing. And we can all try, that's where we get into knowing or marketing the business, but we don't have the knowledge of business of marketing. That's where the real game begins. So in 2015, we focused on this stat that came out of Forrester that says, hey, if you're using this wide funnel, broad at the top, narrow at the bottom, guess what? Less than 1% of the leads are turning into customers. We grabbed on that stat. And we use that to introduce the Flip My Funnel idea, is that you want to be on the right side of history on this one. You don't want to be part of that. You want to be part of something bigger and new and different and change. And that's where people came along on that journey. Did we have the product completely built? No. It was crap. Like we were hardly getting to figure out how to do it. But we had a whole army of people believing into the problem. So it was much easier with their help to sell that when we actually had the product. The reverse was costly. And that's what happens when you have a lot of money, is that you kind of spend on a lot of different things, but you don't have in the early days, we didn't raise 120 on day one, so we had to figure these things out. So we focused on that one step. Same thing in 2022, as we launched go-to-market partners, guess what? Through the book move, we identified that there are only 15 go-to-market problems. That's the good news and bad news. You got 15 go-to-market problems, but you wouldn't find, we have done over 3,000 people research, and we haven't found a 16th go-to-market problem. That means it's solvable. So when we do the workshop tomorrow, we literally have a printout on it, and you sit in teams. We are going to do it upstairs, where you actually sit with marketing, sales, customer success, different team leaders, and actually identify the top 3 go-to-market problems in your company. We teach you how to think through that, and how do you solve for it. What frameworks do you use to solve each one of those 15 go-to-market problems? So that's something that we have been focused on. So even when you went to Terminus website back in the day, you will see 1% over there, that 1% problem. If you go to go-to-market partners today, you will see these 15 go-to-market problems. We're still not talking about our what? Product. We're not talking about it. We want to focus on the problem and point of view. Number 3, we felt like we're good at events from day one. So guess what? When we did Flip My Funnel, we did a roadshow with a ton of partners, and we invited hundreds of people. Normal event that we will do, we'll have 1,000 or 1,500 people, because it was changing marketing and sales at the very core. Now that we're doing with Go-to-Market Made Simple roadshows, like you will see tomorrow, it's very specific. It's about 70, 75 people and in groups. And we have tables set up so that people can sit together and solve go-to-market problems, because we believe go-to-market is a team sport. You have to solve the problems together. As a matter of fact, one of the t-shirts we have is that you don't have a marketing problem or sales problem or CS problem. What you have is a go-to-market problem, because that's about your business. We do that now in every, we have done about 6, this will be our 16th roadshow tomorrow. The 4th is become the guide. That's the part that we feel like most companies forget doing, is how do you become a guide, almost a media company? And everybody talks about it a little bit, but don't really have a formula to do it or haven't done. I'll just share how we have done it. We actually wrote books. We did a whole podcast. We did not come up with a new name for it. It's all about Flip My Funnel. We stayed on that branding for the name of the name of that community, name of the podcast. The books also led into it. The LinkedIn course led into it. We did a whole survey around that. It was all about the same thing for 8 years. And this is hard for marketing. How many of you want to change or are working on brand projects, or you're changing the brand of your company right now? Right? It's really hard. I'm from Atlanta, and I know the VP of marketing at Chick-fil-A. Anybody fans of Chick-fil-A? Yeah. All right. So I asked him, like, all right, are you guys not tired of the cows? Like every single thing is just the cow. And he said, you know what? Yep, we are. At the same time, we did a market study, and we found out only 10% of the market actually is penetrated with that brand messaging. Can you imagine that? He's like, so we're going to keep going. So they still have more cows. They just have cows in different angles, but still cows. And that's what they're doing. So it matters to stay on that one thing that is going to change and get people to think about it. Right now, if I ask you, all right, give me the top 3 brand for shoes, you can probably come up with it. Then I say, give me 5. You might struggle. For 10, you're probably not going to hit 10. The reason is we only have a shelf life of 2 or 3 brands for every single thing. How do you get in the hearts and minds of people that you want them to buy from you? You can't do that if you have a new marketing message every single month or year. So you got to pick one and stay on it. And that's what we're doing even with this. We have the Move podcast. We have the Move book. We're doing the whole LinkedIn course. We did the whole, so it's focused on that one thing that we want people to remember us with, because we're not going to have a chance to have them look at it one more time. It's only one time. that you get a chance for. I'll share about another one, which is just tracking. So one of the stats, Michelle showed all the different elements of how to look at it. I look at it, one of the areas that I spend time looking at is the movement and the market really exist? Or are we in a fantasy land? And the way you look at it is like look at, are people searching for it? You look at, you can use G2 as a proxy for it. You can use, a lot of times I'll look at go-to-market out there and see if there's a change on it. And if there is a spike and things are moving, and I saw the same thing with ABM, I'm seeing the same thing with go-to-market, I know that the market is looking for it. The market is getting penetrated with this idea, so we need to stay on it. But the last thing we want to do is that there's no change and we keep on for years and years. You don't want to do that. But if there is a movement, you got to keep focus on it and capitalize on it. I say this all the time. Without a community, you're simply a commodity. Very quickly, people will change brands. Today, you like this app, you're changing it tomorrow with another app because you just saw and heard from somebody else. You're a commodity. It's a very tough fight out there, folks. But if you have a community with you, it's hard to replace. I remember this conversation with Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah, the founders of HubSpot. And they were investors in Terminus in the early days. And I asked them this question, like, why do you still invest in inbound? Like, you're a big enough company, you're a publicly traded company. They were one of the folks that we interviewed. Tomorrow you'll get a copy of the book, Move, at the workshop. And at the back of it, Brian's quote is how he defines a go-to-market, because he was there from zero all the way to publicly traded company as a CEO. And so we interviewed people like him. And I asked him, why are you still investing in inbound? And guess what? They're not even talking about inbound anymore. Like, they have a wheel. So it's not even the funnel anymore. So why are you still talking about inbound? And they said, and I'll never forget this, Brian said, look, inbound allows us to create an amazing set of raving fans. And if a competitor comes, and he said, I believe that there are competitors building something cheaper, faster than us right now, right in our city in Boston. But the way they're able to compete with us, if they're able to crawl up this wall of 20,000, 30,000 raving fans, because they are the one, they are the shield, they are our moat for the business. So he's like, we're going to invest every year to build this community. So if you ever think about, why does Salesforce have Dreamforce? Why does HubSpot has inbound? Why does Gainsight has Pulse? Why does Terminus did Flip My Funnel? All of these are product companies. They could have called their company, the community name the same as the product, but they didn't. They called it and let it be community. Because everybody understood that without a community, you're simply a commodity. And you have to find a way to build that and do that. By the way, you're going to be one of those on the right tomorrow. So bring a big smile and bring a big waving fine. We do crazy things over there, so you'll find out tomorrow. Number 7, keep your competitors and partners closer and media closer. So you can see this is the old logo of Terminus and some of the partners, and we're now doing GTM partners. Some of the partners are the same. But guess what we also did? We actually invited our competitors to our event. So when we ran Flip My Funnel, that was Terminus, and we invited Engagio, we invited Demandbase at that time, and all of them were sponsors of it, and they were competitors. Venomore was there, they were competitors. And they looked at us and saying, why are you inviting us? I'm like, you're not only invited, you get to do a keynote. They're like, what, not keynote? And you get a booth to sell your software. And they were like, that's crazy. And how much do we spend? Like $10,000? Like, no problem. That's like a chop change for a marketing budget. I'm like, yeah. But what happened with that is that everybody knew, people are smart, people knew who was building the community. We got to build the community. We got to build the whole narrative. We got to set the red carpet on it. And we believed, like Stephen Covey said, in abundant mindset, that there is going to be enough if there is more than one player in the category. There is no such thing, friends, as category of one. It never existed. You want competition, but you want competition on your terms. That's the difference. We wanted competition on our terms. We wanted them to be at our events. So guess what? For next 3-4 years, they didn't do their own events. They just sponsored our events. And we ended up building that narrative that created a bigger market, and guess what? Who showed up? Every single event, media showed up. Analysts showed up. We had them speak at. So they were literally with us every single couple of months in a different city, and we were in their head and ears all the time of why ABM is awesome and what Terminus is doing, and still on the back end building the product. And that's how we're able to capitalize in the market when we didn't have all of it. So partnerships and bringing your competitors and media, keep partners close, is super important. It's your go-to-market play. None of the stuff I'm talking about is a standard marketing playbook. This is all the stuff that if only when you take out the hat of understanding the marketing, the business, instead think about, oh, the business of marketing. The marketing of the business would do, hey, let's create a booth and something like this. The business of marketing will require you to say, you know what, how do I create a bigger narrative so our customers and our future customers and our competitors' customers and their future customers are all at our event? That's changing narrative. That's the challenge. I'll go through a couple more real quick. Awards. Who likes awards? Yeah, right? So a new category, if you're create the first awards. We created for ABM something called as ABMEs. And we had red carpet and all of that stuff. People dressed up and come for GTM. We're about to launch GTMEs. And the point is, people love awards. I still get calls from people that says, I still have that big, and not rinky-dinky awards. Like you want a really solid, big glass, something they want to be proud of and put it out there, not a plank. You want a real thing. And we would do that. And people would keep it next to their desk. And guess who are they thinking about every time they're at work? Us. Changes the game. Changes the game. So I shared this before. The same thing. It's not about being brilliant. As marketers, I know each one of you knows this and wants to be. Every marketer wants to be brilliant. Amen? Every marketer wants to be brilliant. Nobody wants to be, I got the best idea. I think that's what you're in marketing. You want to do some new stuff. But it's not about being brilliant. It's about being intentional. Being intentional is way more important than being brilliant. I'll say that again. It took me 2 decades to learn and understand that. Being intentional on your one idea, your one point of view, on the one thing that you're trying to solve, the one thing that you're really, really good at, maybe it's events or community, whatever it is way more important than being brilliant, where you're coming with a net new thing every single month, every single year. Because that may not change anything, but being intentional will change everything. Everything. Number 10, right now, especially in the down market area, it's all founder-led. It's all leader-led. Everyone has to be out there. You cannot hide behind it. So what we do is not only write stuff, but we do assessments. Tomorrow you will get a copy of the assessment where you go and figure out how good is your go-to-market. You can learn that. You actually literally understand and benchmark your own go-to-market for your company. And then we make it easy. We give this OS certification so people can go and implement those things. Right now, each one of us have to get into the game. We cannot sit back and say, well, let's try that. No, you have to try it by yourself and for yourself to see what works, what doesn't. And I'll share the last thing. Every team, and I loved Michelle's talk around will and skill and attitude so much. The way I define it and describe it sometimes is you need a team of dreamers, doers, and drivers. Let me quickly define them for you. Dreamers are people who live in the wow world. Oh, I have an idea. I wake up every morning with 10 ideas. You don't have to give me coffee and I'll still have 10 ideas. How many of you are dreamers? All right, there you go. Then you have doers. Doers are the people you rely on. Without doers, companies stop. They can't move because doers are the people you trust and you know they will get things done no matter what. Who are my doers in the room? All right, there you go. Companies are running because of you. And drivers have this sense of urgency. They want everything yesterday. They will send an email at 3 a.m. in the morning and share an update next morning at 7 a.m. What happened? Who are my drivers? Here you go. So we have and you know what? We need a team of dreamers, doers, drivers, because if you have a whole bunch of dreamers, they just drink coffee and talk ideas. Do nothing, right? If you have a whole bunch of doers, you know what? They're in a hamster wheel. They're just getting stuff done, and they don't know where they're going. And if you have drivers, all drivers, they'll just kill each other because they want everything done yesterday. So you need a team that is made up of the right mix. So you have somebody dreaming and somebody thinking what to do. That's what doers are doing. And drivers are like, let's get it done now. Like you want the wow, the how, the now in your team in order to do it. And you try to be all three in one, that's suicide. Like that's bad. But if you can figure out how do you lead a team together of three and who you are so you can work with somebody, that's a game changer. So I've always learned to build a team that is made up of dreamers, doers, and drivers. So here's again all of the 11 things that I shared and different ideas around it. And I want to share with you one more thing, and this is super personal, is everything I shared about is not about marketing. Although everything I shared about can be influenced and done by marketing. The difference is, the question for you is, are you going to learn and get better at marketing the business, or are you going to finally spend more time learning about the business of marketing? That's going to change the trajectory of your career, of your team, and of your company. Now I want to share with you, this is everything I shared. It's like, sounds great. It's hard to do because you're like, well, I have other people to talk through. But I want to inspire you to think about this because it's bold. And I want to do that with the video of my daughter. So last summer, she came to me and said, Papa, when I Google you, I find you. I'm like, okay, that's scary. Okay, what else did you find? Like, I figured it out to see. If I Google my name, would I pop up on LinkedIn or all the other places? Like, well, LinkedIn, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if you want to do something that is worthy out there, like, and people like what you do, and you totally could be on the internet. And she's like, okay, well, what if I write a book? And she's 9. And I'm like, sure, you can write a book, no problem. She's like, yeah, because I want to be an author like you. I'm like, sure, you can write a book. And I told her, like, if you want to be an author, like, great, go for it. You got it. And I gave her a list of things and said, hey, she asked me, what do I need to do? And I said, okay, well, create an outline, create chapters. I didn't think too much about it. I just gave her basic instructions to make sure that it's her project and she could do it by herself. And I'm not very involved in it, although I want to be a supporter of it, but I didn't want to be the person who's doing it for her and put her name. I wanted it to be her thing, right? So she did it. She actually took that, spent time, and in October gave me a manuscript. I didn't even know how she knew manuscript. And she said, here it is, can you publish it? All right, I'm gonna go publish this thing. And then when I went online, and then you went through the whole KDP, and if you look for Kiara Vajre, you will see her book, or if you look for me, you'll see hers. It's about real heroes, how Spider-Man is not the only hero. People that are around that person can also be heroes in their own little ways. That's what she's writing about. It's a pretty bold thing to do. And so we printed it, and she didn't know when the book was coming for her to see. So this is her reaction as the book came about.
Open this up. Turn the page over. That's your book. Do you see your name here on the book?
That's fatherly voice, as you can see.
You happy?
So that's that. Like,
love you. Congratulations, you're an author. You are an author. You want to show your author?
So everything that we talked about today is about being bold and doing something that you thought, maybe I can't do. Maybe I don't have all those skill sets. Maybe I don't have the will to do, but maybe you have the attitude to do, as Michelle said. But all these 11 different go-to-market plays aren't going to change the way you think about marketing, because it's no longer about just marketing. It's about learning the business of marketing. And if you join us tomorrow for 8 to 12, We have an early breakfast and coffee and lunch and everything, but we have companies coming together, sitting in round tables and solving real business go-to-market problems. We're starting to talk to universities to make that part of their course. We'll probably talk to Utah University as well, because we want to transform businesses. And the way businesses are transformed when you change and work as a team to figure it out. So if it's not just you, bring your team together to learn and how do you solve the biggest go-to-market problem. And don't forget, bring a big smile because you're going to be one of those people tomorrow. Thank you so much. See you later.